Did you know in the last Bitcoin bull run that Bitcoin and crypto mining stocks actually outpaced Bitcoin on gains? And to be frank, Bitcoin stocks have surged over the last year, but I don't think it's over. But what are the best Bitcoin stocks? What's up? I'm Drew Vosk. You're on the VoskCoin YouTube channel. I'm not here to show you anything. I obviously either have or I'm opening a lot of these positions right now. I just bought into several of them as I did more research today. Today's video, I'm going to show you the Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining stocks that I think are the best, that I have positions in and am continuing to expand in. So we're really going to fixate on Bitcoin mining stocks, but we're going to go a bit beyond that. We're going to look at AI related to mining farm stocks. We're going to look at some general crypto stocks and essentially what is a Bitcoin stock, right? So the recent news is that Bitcoin miners tumble on Bitcoin's late night crash, referencing Bitcoin mining stocks. Okay, so that is good news as a buyer to hear right now, okay? Is it already too late? Question everybody wants to ask. We look at the year-to-date performance. This is an article from August of 2023. We look at these returns and very impressive returns year-to-date on these stocks. And we look at some of these snapshots, how much it was costing them to mine Bitcoin, right? Riot, $8,000, which this is a great data point to have. And this is harder to find than you may think sometimes. They mined 1,800 Bitcoin in that quarter. And we look at some of these other mining stocks where they're holding 10,000 plus Bitcoins. Okay, let's just put that into perspective right now. Okay, 10,000 Bitcoin is worth right now $412 million. That's a lot of money. Bitcoin is the biggest cryptocurrency by far. It's trading over $40,000. It's been having a good year, or at least everybody in crypto thinks it's got a pretty bright future ahead of it. This is data from the end of 2022, but I bring this up in particular because this was such a difficult time. If you want to take a snapshot of these mining operations when they're in basically dire straits, here it is. Okay, what were their assets? What were their liabilities? Were they able to turn a profit? Right? Because this was as bad as it gets. How much was it costing them to mine Bitcoin? Okay, when things were terrible, right? Market conditions are bad. It was costing these stocks somewhere between 14 and 4 grand. That's a really huge disparity. We look at these key metrics, and some of these are why I own many of these stocks. So I've kind of set the scene, right? So now you kind of understand the landscape some. Let's break it down stock by stock, right? And kind of sift through this and see where we should go. But before we kind of break into the stocks, I want to touch on Quantum Expeditions. Quantum Expeditions historically supported the VoskCoin YouTube channel, so just understand that. And we actually had Justin on the podcast, how he's working on building a publicly traded Bitcoin mining farm. By the way, did you know that we're working on getting the VoskCoin podcast onto all of the podcast platforms right now, including Spotify and many others? If there's a platform you want to see us on, let us know in the comments. Here's a cool thing though. They've merged a couple companies, merged a couple people, and they are raising funds for their Bitcoin mining farm. And this is an early opportunity to participate, right? I mean, you realize when you buy into all these Bitcoin mining stocks, they're valued in the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, right? So they're taking this valuation at a $25 million cap. You are essentially buying into a $25 million, hopeful one day publicly traded Bitcoin mining farm. There's a lot of ground to cover between today and when they're publicly traded. But that's their goal. Will they make it? I don't know. And this is the difference of, buying in early, right? If you will, if they go to be a $250 million publicly traded Bitcoin mining stock, they would be on the small side of BTC mining stocks. That would do a 10x just to kind of get there at the bottom, at the baseline. So I'll drop a link in the video description below to this fundraiser. I'll also drop a link to the podcast interview where you can learn more about one of the key figures participating in this. And for me personally, when I look at investments, I try to learn more about the people in the team than some grand idea, because you can have a mediocre idea and an incredible team, and they can probably take that thing pretty far. Now let's look at Riot. It's commonly referenced when it comes to Bitcoin mining stocks. It's worth just a casual $3 billion. It would be a top cryptocurrency if it was on the crypto market caps. So it's trading at over $14 a share right now. I think this is really funny because just, several months ago, Cointelegraph called this overvalued. Okay. And let's look at this published date, November 8th. All right. And let's look at the Riot stock, and let's go to November 8th. And if you bought on November 8th, you'd buy at $10.28 a share. And now that would be worth $14. You would essentially be up 40% on your buy. Guess it wasn't too overvalued, now was it? Recent article headline by NASDAQ had a couple Bitcoin miners moving into AI. In particular, those were BTBT, which is Bit Digital, as well as Hive Technology, which trades as Hive. These are similar size companies, 250 million market cap, 18 employees for BTBT. And when we look at Hive, 18 employees, $300 million market cap. And their price earnings ratio is at a -2. However, when you contrast that with BTBT, their price earnings, their PE ratio is at almost -3. So the PE ratio, right, it expresses the relationship between the price per share and the amount of earnings. So we have price earnings, PE, attributed to a single share. PE ratio equals the price per equity share, earnings per share. If you want to understand the negative, you get a negative PE when a company's earnings are negative. But is a negative PE really that bad, right? So at an initial glance, you're like, well, that's terrible. It's negative. It's a red flag. It may be in financial trouble. May not be on a path of growth. That's not always true. It could be a period of expanding, tough market conditions, and simply working through things, working through problems. And at the end of the day, anything related to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency will see incredible months of returns and terrible months of returns. This is not a conservative, easygoing market. It's quite literally the opposite. This update came out at the perfect time, so huge shout out to Anthony Power for crunching all this data, because let me tell you, it is a lot. 20 weeks until the Bitcoin halving. The network hash rate is averaging over 500 on the Bitcoin network. Increasing competition is decreasing the amount of Bitcoin that these publicly traded Bitcoin miners are mining, but Bitcoin has increased in price, which really is likely more than making up for the decrease in the actual realized Bitcoins that are mined. Hut 8 and US Bitcoin announced completion of their merger. Great news. Argo Blockchain, publicly traded ARBK, welcomed Thomas Chippas, former CEO of CBOE Digital, as its new CEO. Have you met our CEO? Yeah, that's going to be Tails Bosk, our resident sheep. She is our chief enforcement officer. She's pretty tough. The notable thing on Argo is that they had an increase last month of 4.8 Bitcoin per day, which is a 4.8 increase in Bitcoins mined from the previous month. And again, that's despite a 9% rise in monthly average network there. So we look at the self-mining, and this is great recent data, for some of these, especially that we have just talked about and looked at. The key takeaway with the last month's data is that we see increases between literally every single one of these, except for BitDeer. They came out to be the biggest loser by far. But everyone else is seeing gains of single digits, if not double digits. Substantial. You look at the revenue numbers, that's a lot. Remember, these are in the millions of dollars. Cipher mining doing over 16 million. CleanSpark doing over 25 million. Iris doing a flat 14 million. And Big Dog Marathon, $45 million. It's very interesting to see the difference in the hodled Bitcoin across some of these. You look at CleanSpark, they're sitting on $100 million of Bitcoin, which pales in comparison to the $500 million the Marathon has and $250,000 that Riot has. But again, smaller market caps, smaller operations. I think Hive and Cipher have pretty good numbers here as well. And when you see 0, it's disappointing. And 0.8 hodled Bitcoin, 1.6 million hodled Bitcoin at the current price of Bitcoin, that ain't that much. But it's not all negative for BitDeer, because this has a great note here, a year-over-year increase, okay, of the successfully mined Bitcoins at 82%. That is a huge year-over-year increase. BT, we've already talked about them, but let's talk about them more because this is important. The recent news is that they have inked the agreement to deploy over 1,500 HGX H100 GPUs by NVIDIA. They have a 3-year duration lockdown, and this is going to start in January 2024. This is anticipated to generate over $35 million in annualized revenue for BT, and this is excellent diversification in the face of the Bitcoin halving. Bullish. Bitfarms has secured some seriously cheap electricity at 2.1 cents per kilowatt hour. I will say it's not in my preferred place. It's in Argentina, and I don't mean that offensively or anything, but I would much rather see mining stateside for numerous reasons. But regardless, it's very cheap electricity, and hope it works out for them. They also finalized an order for 36,000 T21, which is new generation Bitcoin miners. One of the worst new generation Bitcoin miners, but still a very good miner nonetheless. And at their electricity rate, would actually probably make sense to be the right choice for them. A very low price point and current market conditions of $2,660. That's cheap for these. CleanSpark pushes forward, good uptime, improved efficiency. And you can see CleanSpark taking some profits here, selling 402 Bitcoin, generating a cool 15 million last month. Cipher mining continues mining. They achieved a further 9 Bitcoin equivalent in energy credits, which is a very unique thing that these major mining farms have. Sometimes they make more money by literally not mining, getting paid by the power companies to be off or off at certain time. The CEO, Tyler Page, highlighted the company's focus on improving machine repairs and uptime. And this is proven to be effective because they have an increase against harder mining conditions due to the network hash rate increase. They sold a lot of their mined Bitcoin, 90% of what they produced last month, to realize 21 million in newly mined Bitcoins, well, dollars now, in their pockets. They continue working on the Black Pearl, a new Texas mining facility of theirs. Core Scientific, which is still trying to work their way out of bankruptcy, everything like that. They continue to mine, they continue to sell Bitcoin. They have a stock dilution plan, and the bankruptcy court has approved the procedures for the rights offering on all of this in their Chapter 11 bankruptcy. DMG, publicly traded DMGI, is also grabbing a big order of T21 Bitmain AMP miners. And now, let's crunch some math. What's that price per miner? $2,660. Their goal, this is to use the high energy mode and realize up to an entire exahash of additional mining power. And then surprisingly, they increased their rate of Bitcoin production at about 13% between October and November. Hive announced that they're acquiring a data center in Sweden, long-term value, sustainable goals, and they're focusing on energy efficiency. Hive continues to mine, continues producing Bitcoin. Very high mining operational level and utilization here, 99% for the month of November, only equaled by CleanSpark. They have very big Bitcoin holdings for their operation size, which we touched on, at 61 million or 1,627 BTCs. They have also recently acquired almost 10,000 S19K Pro miners. We've got some of these in our farm. We enjoy them. They're not the latest generation. They're one of the best final models of the previous generation. It's interesting to see a major mining farm doubling down on these as opposed to, say, the T21s. Having last generation miners makes them less viable in the long term. Assuming this new generation is any good. It hasn't even hit the hands of anyone really yet. Iris Energy is very effective. Publicly traded IRAN. Okay, the key takeaway from them is they achieved an effective total revenue per petahash of $2,505, the highest total from all North American listed miners. To put it simply, that is winning, that is efficiency, that is effective. Furthermore, they too have ordered the T21 miners. You can see that these are being dealt absolutely in bulk. And it's interesting to see how many Bitmain miner orders are on here, as opposed to, say, Micro BT What's miners, which is going to be Bitmain's main competitor on Bitcoin miners. In particular, we've gotten the M60S in our hand direct from MicroBT to review, and we're absolutely impressed with its performance and efficiency. Bitmain is honestly not that fun to deal with, though, in comparison. The monolithic Marathon Digital uptick over the last month. They've mined over 10,000 Bitcoins this year, nearly 11,000, 20% boost in domestic hash rate. They met their long-term domestic hash rate goal, but reinforced their status as the largest Bitcoin miner in North America. They sold over half of the Bitcoins they mined and grew their HODL to a new high. They're really winning in every category. They are also building a new mining facility in Abu Dhabi. Riot mined over 500 Bitcoins over the last month. They utilized power curtailment credits of 0.2 million and a further 1.6 million in ERCOT demand response programs. They sold 540 Bitcoin, nearly all the Bitcoin that they mined, for about $20 million, increasing their treasury and adding a couple Bitcoins to their BTC treasury. They still hold a very substantial sum though, so do not misunderstand that, over $250 million. Interestingly enough though, they have chosen to proceed with the M66S model by MicroBT. They dropped a casual $250 million order with them. Riot has updated the agreement with MicroBT, this ASIC miner manufacturer, with an option to purchase up to a total of 265,000 additional miners, providing scalability and long-term hash rate. This is making me bearish on my own mining endeavor in a way, because I got to get my electricity rate down some more to compete with these guys or pivot towards solar sooner than later. SATO didn't have the best news. They were down over an entire day, which is just awful for a Bitcoin miner. And that was due, not their fault, that was due to the electric provider. They were still able to mine 35 Bitcoin. They sold 30 of them, added 5 to the treasury, taking their HODL to a whopping 43 BTC. TeraWulf mines over 10 Bitcoin per day right now, and they are increasing their mining rate. They're up 6% over the last month, with facilities in New York as well as Pennsylvania. I really want to go to the Pennsylvania one. It's not that far from me. They operate about 50,000 miners. These are basically going to be my personal favorite picks. These are some of my biggest stock positions and things I'm actively expanding. And again, none of this is financial advice. As always, you do whatever you want to do. TeraWulf. Why TeraWulf? Basically, they boast having an environmentally clean Bitcoin mining facility. Bitcoin's produced with nuclear, hydro, and solar energy. So while they may not be producing the cheapest Bitcoin, right, they have that very green aspect. This can increase public sentiment. This can increase incentives for them that we may not really kind of see on the surface at a quick glance. And it's a lower valuation Bitcoin stock, compared to say Riot at about $350 million right now. And again, I'm just going to give you the quick gist on these things, so this is not a 1 hour long video. Cipher mining. This is personally one of my favorites for the simple reason they are producing Bitcoin so cheaply. They are a Bitcoin miner. They're headquartered in New York for some weird reason. They have gained huge momentum over the last year. We look over the last year, they're up 205%, right? But most Bitcoin stocks are. They've had an incredible year of returns. TeraWulf is one of the lower valuations over the last year right now, which is another reason I like it and I'm expanding that position. It's only up 120%. We look at Cipher. It's up 205%, market cap 600 million. Their PE ratio is terribly low. And for whatever it's worth, analysts put it at an 86% buy ratio on Robinhood right now. Iris boasts that they're not just Bitcoin miners, they have an institutional grade data centers, they've got renewable energy, and we look over the last year, it's had big returns. It is up a good bit decently. If you bought it just a couple months ago, you'd be looking at potentially doubling your money. But what I really like is the fact that, again, this is still a lower market cap publicly traded miner here at about 350 million. Of the analyst ratings, everyone's putting it at a buy for whatever it's worth. And again, that's the quick gist of this one. CleanSpark has been on a tear last couple weeks. Just a couple weeks ago, you could have doubled your money if you bought CleanSpark compared to today. It's at its all-time high over the last year. This is the least interesting buy when you take the snapshot of right now, but analysts are still calling it a buy. 83%. With a $1.63 billion market cap, you can kind of look at CleanSpark as being more akin to a Riot competitor. This stock is interesting because it's basically going to be less volatile, in my opinion. They've got much more employees. They've got more going on. They've got a bigger market cap. If you don't have a big risk tolerance, I added this to my portfolio to hedge my risk a little bit in a way, something that I think will be a little slower moving up and down. An interesting stock to me, this is in a similar but different category. It's going to be Block, which was previously Square SQ. How do they define themselves, right? Square, the Cash App, ability to accept credit card payments. They allow the investment in stocks. The CEO is Jack Patrick Dorsey. Huge Bitcoin interest. He's literally actively investing in Bitcoin infrastructure. They're bringing a Bitcoin wallet to market and they're open sourcing that. This is a Bitcoin company to a degree with a $40 billion market cap, led by someone who absolutely loves and truly endorses Bitcoin. Much like Coinbase. Coinbase is crypto and Bitcoin infrastructure. I've been yelling that Coinbase is so exciting as a basically crypto buy, at least for me, from my point of view, over the last year. And I was making videos and videos saying it's crazy, it's trading at 30 bucks, undervalued. And now we're trading over 130 bucks. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but you do have to celebrate, some wins here and there. You do have to celebrate some good calls, and you do have to celebrate sticking in a market, dollar cost averaging, continue to expand positions month over month, and playing the long game. If you want to be rich tomorrow, you're probably never going to be rich. If you want to be rich one day, well, that's something you can work towards. And finally, we're going to round it out with MSTR, MicroStrategy. You may have heard of MicroStrategy due to, I don't know, Michael Saylor. He just has a cool 24% of MSTR. MicroStrategy is nothing short of a bet on Bitcoin.
Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay. What's the second best? There is no second best.
I don't know about all that. What MicroStrategy really is, it's basically a moving Bitcoin stock. They're leveraged huge in Bitcoin. They keep adding more Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. They're up 179, really 180% over the last year. It is valued at almost $9 billion. Okay, and let's look at Bitcoin over the last year. What are the returns over Bitcoin over the last year? Well, about a year ago, it was trading at about 17 grand. So this stock has essentially tracked the returns and, in a way, the price. How much Bitcoin does MicroStrategy own? Okay, they own 174,000 Bitcoins. The average purchase price for them is $30,000 per Bitcoin with a total cost of $5 billion. So right now they are up 25% on their average buy price. Now, if you take this Bitcoin quantity and let's punch it in here, that's worth over $7 billion. All right, so if we look at just the Bitcoin holdings, and we look at the stock, it has a market cap of nearly $9 billion. You could say you're paying a slight premium to get into this. Buying MicroStrategy, to be frank, is nothing short of just buying Bitcoin at this point. And the bottom line is there's a lot of people that are going to want to buy Bitcoin over the next couple years and may choose this as a route to do so. Enter Bitcoin ETF and a bunch of other things. This is just nothing short of interesting. We could make a whole video just talking about this. So I'm going to kind of round it out at that. But to be frank, Michael Saylor went from being a Bitcoin hater to a Bitcoin bull. Okay. I'm a Bitcoin bull, so I'm here to party. I'm here for the long game. This is my breakdown of all these stocks that are going on. Again, as a disclosure, please understand, I own pretty much every stock that we talked about today, or I want to own it. I am actively expanding positions. I'm not here to shill things. The bottom line is this is a video recapping what I'm doing and a bit on why, and you choose to do whatever you want to do. As always, I don't know the future. I hope all this stuff works out. You're never going to win the game if you're not playing it. And honestly, sometimes it's just really that simple. So let me go hang out with our CWO. We run 10 seconds of Tails in every video. She's our chief winning officer. That's going to be Tails Vosk, our resident Dogecoin. And, you know, as a reminder, Bitcoin and Doge are traded on Robinhood. This isn't some Robinhood shill video or whatever. I actively use Robinhood for better and worse. I like the platform. I use other apps as well. I try to diversify where I'm holding stuff in case something blows up. But I'll drop, you know, the classic Robinhood link down in the video description below if you want to support the channel. The one other thing I'll note as we close this out, if all this Bitcoin mining talk gets you excited, consider checking out ASIC Marketplace. ASIC Marketplace is a seller of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency miner. We have a unique discount code with them, so punch in the code VOSCOIN to save some coin. Honestly, Bitcoin mining is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. The returns have been great year over year for me, especially after diversifying into altcoin mining. It's really been a fun and interesting ride. And if you want an engaging hobby, trust me, mining is definitely that if you make it, if you get into the tinkering side of it all. So on that note, I just want to thank you for watching, and I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. Did you click subscribe yet? You better.